trying to make those decisions, my parents are supportive. Sometimes they don't always understand.
Sure.
Because I'm a little bit of a trailblazer and not in the box.
Mm-hmm.
But, they're looking at the things that were important to them, and every parent wants what is good for their child or better than what they had maybe. And so they're thinking job security. You can retire when you're 51. Are you sure you want to give that up? And I'm like, yeah, I actually don't. It's not worth it to me to be trapped.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jarrett Bass with Mark McCain, and you are listening to Everyday Athlete, a podcast devoted to bringing you to the amazing stories behind the lives of day-to-day CrossFit athletes like yourself. And today we actually don't have a CrossFit athlete necessarily, right?
Right.
We have Lisa English. Welcome today.
Thank you.
And you and Mark know each other. This is one of the few guests
from a former life.
Yeah, one of the few guests that I don't know at all. So sometimes Mark gets some, but
you're not omnipotent, is that it?
No, I'm not.
No, all-knowing. Yeah, so I can maybe a little more context. I met Lisa probably 2009 or 8, somewhere around there. In a previous life when we worked as personal trainers for a little company called Fitness Together in Montgomery, and it was kind of a brief stint there. But anyway, through social media and whatnot, still kept up a little bit with each other. And she's really passionate about training people, helping people, encouraging them to obviously have a healthy lifestyle. So anyway, I figured it would be good to have you on the show and maybe share some words of wisdom and some stories and whatnot. But anyway, so without further ado, maybe Lisa, just start with
tell us everything about your life.
Tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, well, I am from Cynthiana, Kentucky, originally. And
where is Cynthiana? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Cynthiana, it's a little small town past Falmouth.
Okay.
So it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. You can't really, there's no good way to get there.
Right.
Lexington was the closest big town for us. So grew up as a UK fan.
Okay. Well, you'll fit in well. Yes, you'll fit in well here, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean.
But honestly, I have to admit, I'm not really that passionate about sports teams. So
sports.
I don't really care.
That's all right. Nothing wrong with that. It's really not. I'm kind of the same boat. I keep up with the basics, and then I'm like, Mark will rattle off statistics, and I'm like, how do you know that? It's super impressive, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Super impressive. So
I like sports.
Yeah. So you're from Cynthiana, and then how do you kind of get up this way?
Well, my first career was a high school English teacher, so I got a job at Boone County.
Lisa English.
I know.
Taught English.
I know. So I moved to Florence to teach at Boone County High School, and did that for about 7 years, and then transitioned into health education at the health department, and eventually made my way into personal training. That was my passion long before I came into that as a professional. And
did you always kind of have the fitness bug as far as like in high school? Like, would you work out a lot, or was that something that came a little bit later?
I think it came a little bit later from a formal sense, but I was an athlete in high school. I was always involved in activities. I was a track person. I did gymnastics because I was a cheerleader, and I know people don't think that's a sport, but pretty athletic. And even in elementary school, loved PE class and those types of things. So sports oriented, but then went to college and did the typical freshman 15. Healthy habits, I never had to worry about it as a kid.
Sure.
So I didn't know. I didn't know how to eat well. I didn't understand that once I stopped doing all the conditioning that I was doing, that I might not be able to stay as healthy and in shape.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty typical. I mean, I definitely can attest to that for myself. What did you run in track? Do you remember?
I did 100-yard dash.
Okay.
440.
Sprinter.
Yeah, as a sprinter. 440 relay, 200, and 880 relay.
Oh man, no.
Yeah, I know. And then those people Are you one of those distance runners?
No, well, I mean, I actually the only time I trained with a cross country team to train for soccer. So that was my sport. So we had to run a certain amount of distance in a certain amount of time, and we basically trained with the cross country team in order to do that. So
smart.
But yeah, it was not. I did not enjoy it. I still do not enjoy long distance stuff.
I do not either. But and it's not my forte. And I loved sprinting as a kid, but it's so much harder now. When I'm at 45, it hurts more.
Yeah, sure. So freshman 15. So how do you go from kind of the English teacher route to where you are now?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think I was always interested in health. So I started off as a nursing major. That wasn't the route I wanted to go. I knew I didn't want to be clinical and necessarily treating sick people. And there wasn't another real route. This profession has grown so much. The wellness and fitness profession has grown so much that education comes naturally for me. So that's sort of how I picked that. And then just always was interested. I was working out, going to the gym. When I was teaching, teachers were asking me for advice. Students knew that I was really active. And I just decided I need to go do something else.
Right.
Yeah, it's we've had a couple people that had that kind of mindset and career change, almost following a path of just happiness, I think. Is that the case for you, where it was, this is going to make me is more fulfilling?
Yes, I figured out that there were certain things about being a teacher that I really enjoyed. I like helping people. I like seeing people learn new skills, the relationship piece, the rapport that you develop. And I love to read and all that kind of stuff too, but teaching English is challenging, and it wasn't my passion to be an English teacher.
And it was probably challenging because it wasn't a passion.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of trying to shoehorn yourself into that role, and it may not be necessarily the one that's for you.
Exactly.
Well, so many people chase that financial, comfort of maybe like a more traditional job, and whenever they look at the health and wellness spectrum, where you're almost kind of carving your own path, it's very intimidating. So even though you might be passionate about it, it's still very intimidating. It's even just like starting, becoming a client, of whether it's a CrossFit gym or just being a personal training client. It's like, I know I need to do this, but it looks really intimidating, and it's going to be expensive and a commitment. But ultimately, whenever you do follow your passion, it's going to give you a higher quality of life, even if that's not financially compensated. So kudos to you for actually getting out of the boat, or whatever you want to say, and pursuing something more than just a 9-to-5. And there's nothing wrong. Like, my wife's a teacher, like some people are very passionate about it. I'm just saying, like, that wasn't what your passion was. And even Steven on our last podcast was he was looking at teaching, and then he talked about qualities that kind of transfer over naturally. And I'm sure you can go into some of that too. But
yeah, definitely.
So was there a moment, like, some people have that aha moment. Was there a moment for you like that that made that mindset shift, or was it just gradual over time?
I think it was gradual. I also think, well, I don't know how much you guys ever watched Oprah, but she would always talk about whispers from the universe. And I think I had several of those moments that I just didn't pay attention to. Even in my 20s as a teacher, one of our special education teachers that I collaborated with a lot, we were just talking one day in the office, and she said, you really need to be doing something in health and fitness, because when you talk about it, your whole face lights up.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not you necessarily. It's the other people pointing out, like, because you probably don't. We see stuff differently than you are going to see yourself and things like that.
Yeah, I had no idea that at that point I was influencing and inspiring people, or that I came across that way, because it was just normal. It was something I did after work. I would go to the gym, and it was a lifestyle, and people noticed. So, yeah.
That's pretty impressive, because, and how far into your career were you with as far as teaching goes?
7 years.
7 years. That's a long time to be doing that.
It is.
And some people, never really listened to those little tiny things either. I was listening to it was a little piece that New York Times did recently, and it was basically about that. It was a little different path. It just started with writing what makes you happy on a napkin, and really chiseling away at the things that may not be as fulfilling, but in the one woman in particular, it was designing jeans, and millions and millions and millions of pairs of jeans later, that is what she follows, what she is passionate about, and it's one of those things that if you actually take the time to do it and really believe in what you're trying to tell yourself, that a lot of times that can be the right path.
Right. And I don't think we always know. And, we are told, pick a major, you're 18 years old, you're off to college, and you don't even know yourself at that point.
Right.
So that was a part of my journey, was really getting to know myself. And that's something that I continue, it's a continuous thing. You never are finished learning, ever. That's the teacher in me. You're always learning. And then you evolve and grow personally and professionally, and if you can take the time to really do that for yourself, then you'll know.
I think that self-awareness is super important, because when you're talking about just strict passion, right? I can be really passionate about playing basketball, but if I'm 5'6", if I'm a white guy and I'm 5'6", like, I might want to think about developing a different, passion or just different skill set. Maybe I pursue the route of being a coach, maybe, whatever it is. But if like my number one goal is to be, this NBA player, and I'm 5'6" white guy, then, I better have this self-awareness, unless just every time I shoot it goes in, which would be pretty impossible. I feel like that can be, in a more like tangible sense, so many people need to develop that, and it honestly, there just needs to be classes on that, in high school and so on and so forth, just how to maybe identify. It's almost the impossible, because like you said, you're 16, 17, 18 years old, and they're like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? You're like, well, I don't know. I'm not even all the way through puberty yet.
I say at the time, it might be like watching Instagram videos.
Exactly.
Like that's
especially nowadays.
About,
yeah.
Especially nowadays, you see all these Instagram, YouTube, people making $100,000 a year, and they're like, well, I just want to do that and play, video games all day. But there are some people, like my cousin just graduated high school, and she wants to be a nurse, and she's all in on it, and that's awesome. Like, I'm honestly jealous. I'm like, wow, that's fantastic. Like, you 100,000% know that you want to do this. But then again, if you get 7 years into it and you're like, wow, this isn't what I thought it was, or I'm losing that passion, it's good to know that that's what makes this country so amazing. There are options out there for you to do that, and sometimes it is having the right people around you, because even if you didn't have those people around you at the time and they were like, wow, Lisa, like your whole face lights up whenever you talk about this, you may still be teaching, who knows. So
Right.
Well, I think too, just going the route of basketball, like if I was really passionate about it, but also having self-awareness that may not be where I can go as far as like playing professionally, there's other things that you can do that involve that sport, insert the subject matter that can still work towards that passion. Just be a sports commentator. You can still be passionate about basketball, or an announcer, or work for a team. There's a million different paths you can go. And again, to what Mark said, I think that's the greatest thing about what we have is our country is it's not limited to just those very small specific things. And if there's not a position there, you make one. That's kind of what we're doing with
capitalism,
with this place is there wasn't really I don't say a need for it, but we're making our own want for what we do here.
Absolutely. And I
that
bumped up
changes.
against some generational differences when trying to make those decisions. My parents are supportive. Sometimes they don't always understand.
Sure.
Because I'm a little bit of a trailblazer and not in the box. But, they're looking at the things that were important to them, and every parent wants what is good for their child or better than what they had maybe. And so they're thinking job security. You can retire when you're 51. Are you sure you want to give that up? And I'm like, yeah, I actually don't. It's not worth it to me to be trapped, to feel trapped in something that I don't want to do for 20 more years, that's a long time, regardless of what possible benefits might be there in the future. And we don't really know what those benefits are going to look like for teachers these days. There's been
especially
a lot,
right now.
Right now, it's.
Tell me your thoughts on the governor. No.
Yeah, I have no thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, to that point, a sure thing is never a sure thing.
Never.
You really don't know what's going to happen. And Mark and I talk quite a bit personally and with the coaches and with our people here about what success really is. Success can be financial, but really talk to someone who's older. Talk to someone who's older than you and ask them what success is. And I guarantee you, if they've been doing whatever they're doing long enough and they don't like it, I guarantee you it's not going to be money. Or ask someone what their regrets are that's a little bit elderly, and usually it's, I wish I would have traveled more. I wish I would have done this more. And very rarely is it, I wish I would have made more money.
Absolutely.
But that's the world's view on success. Let's be honest. Like people look at their bank account like a scoreboard, and not their waistline, or not their stress level, or not their cortisone, or not their posture, or sleep, or. Yes, I mean it's you can go on the more and more tangents about that, but I think why we brought Lisa on the podcast was to share a little bit more about how she's been changing people's lives in health and wellness once you kind of got to that point, and that's you are a trailblazer in that regard, because we need more people out there like you to influence the world positively as opposed to just meet the bottom line.
How long were you in this new career path for yourself when you guys met?
That's a good question.
Well, so interestingly enough, when I left teaching, I went back to grad school for a second time and got a master's in health promotion at UC, and was doing an internship that was required in corporate health and wellness, which I really enjoyed. And so I was doing a part-time training job when I met Mark, and I was in a transitional period. So I have been in and out of the traditional job setting and my own personal thing, or done a combination of the two for 20 years.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And I'm sure you've gained a wealth of experience and knowledge from that I definitely want to dive into.
Yeah, definitely.
We joke about it, but like a lot of times we're flying by the seat of our pants, but the experience we have gained, we talked about this on the last podcast, which is, hey, I made the mistake. Please don't do that.
Right.
So the more we can learn from people like yourself, the more, the better we all become, honestly. So, so what? I guess 20 years. Man, I can go all sorts of places with that. I mean, what are some of the big nuggets that you've learned that maybe anyone who's listening can take away from? It doesn't have to be in a health setting. Just maybe how to communicate or treat people. Because that's probably a big one that we find out that we are less a fitness place than it is just community building and what we call a sanctuary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's always been my thing. It's building relationships has been a part of every job that I've had, and for me, it comes naturally, and it always has. And I do think it's important, and I think it's helped me to be successful even in the roles where they weren't going to be the right fit long term. I still gained something from that. So treating people kindly and with respect and with compassion and understanding, and trying not to judge too much, because it's really easy to say, oh, that person's lazy or they don't care, but we don't know what their circumstances are. I've done a lot of health and wellness coaching, and so it's never too late to redirect, number one, ever. You can make mistakes. We're all going to do it. So if it's professionally or if it's with your fitness journey and where you're at with your health, no matter what you've done up to this point, you can always redirect. And it might not be easy, but it can be done.
Yeah.
I've redirected 1,000,000 times. So
yeah. Well, I think redirection is, I think I call it hitting a reset button. I think that's like growing up with a Nintendo. But that's really what. Have a cookie during the day. you can hit the reset button on the day as far as your nutrition goes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, you missed a week. When you hit the reset button and start up next week, it's not like well, that's it. You know, but unfortunately, I think that's where a lot of people go to. That's their first mindset was, well, I missed that workout. I guess I just won't go for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
It's an all or nothing thinking.
Yeah.
It's prevalent in psychology, and it's a difficult thing for all of us to deal with, whether it's with our nutrition, our fitness, careers, relationships. Oh, I messed up, and I might as well just eat everything in sight from the nutrition standpoint, and I'll start on Monday. When you can really choose to start at the very next meal.
Yeah.
And you can eat a half a cookie and still like yourself and still be fit and still be healthy. It's okay.
I saw something the other day. It was actually about cookies. It said, what you think happens when you eat a cookie? And it's like, well, my diet's over. I might as well just continue down that path. Or, you know, I've ruined my week. I've ruined my diet. I'm going to give up. And it's like, what actually happens? You probably consumed about 200 to 400 calories, and it was probably really tasty.
Yeah.
You know, like,
right.
And then go back to your normal, you know, your normal routine. You know, it's okay. It's fine.
It is okay. And that's one of the biggest things for me as I've matured for myself, and what I work with clients on is balance. And so my mission is to empower and inspire people to live a healthy, happy, balanced life. So from a wellness standpoint, you know, looking emotionally, physically, mentally, all of those things. And I'm just not going to be that trainer or that coach that says, you can't have this, you can't have that, you can have whatever you want. Basically, you have to know what the consequences are going to be for any choice that you make. I eat cookies. I love cookies.
They're delicious.
Yeah, they're delicious.
I had a few before this.
Moderation.
And yeah.
It's moderation.
But, yeah, I can't tell you how many people I've sat down with and they have a laundry list of health problems. And then I asked them the last time they've experienced just genuine fun. And they have a moment of pause and they're just like, you know, I'm like, if it's not coming to mind like quickly, then guess what? You need to schedule. Like you need to, you know, it sounds silly. You know, for me, my escapism is golf. Like I'm not very good at it. I don't take myself too seriously though, because the moment it becomes not fun is the moment I'm just gonna walk away.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't do it too often. For me, like I said, it's escapism. It's like, all right, I can go out there, you know, on my own, or if I want to go with a buddy or whatever, and just relax and enjoy the lush greenery and maybe an adult beverage, who knows. But ultimately, I think that's super important, and you have to do that within your fitness too. I mean, there's days we have here where I think it might even be today, we're playing burpee knockout. You know, where they're shooting some basketballs and doing burpee, and some people don't really care for it, but most people will engage and
guess what?
laugh and have fun. And
that's also fitness.
Yeah, exactly.
Accuracy is an important part of this.
Exactly.
One of the things you said that you know, we talk about wellness a lot, but coming from the clinical version of wellness, I'm very interested just to hear like what all that entails. So we have I don't know if Mark told you about the challenge we have going on right now. So we have a clean challenge. It's what we call the Triumph Clean Challenge. It's 8 weeks, and it's based around the 7 dimensions of wellness. We picked 5. So we have fitness, lifestyle, a participation, recovery, and spirit. So and most are try to make them fun and things like that, but it's based around those 7 dimensions of wellness. Like if we just say eat this, come to the gym, we're missing a pretty big chunk of all of this, right? Yeah. So if you can just shed some light on what wellness really is, because what we envision it as might be something a little bit different than what you envision.
Well, yeah, and I think everybody's definition might be a little different. And for me, I think of well-being, total well-being, and treating or addressing the whole person. And so one of the things that I always did as a personal trainer, which is why I've gravitated more into the wellness coaching aspect, was addressing the different dimensions. Because if you're off balance,
there are 7, right? I'm not.
Some models have 5, some have 7, some have 9.
Okay.
So yeah, you're not wrong.
Okay.
And
you're
I couldn't.
Not right either, though.
I couldn't list them all, but I think really the important thing is, you know, your mental and emotional health. Spiritual is one of the components. Social, environmental, financial can be one. The physical, obviously. So several different things in there going on. I have something that I'm planning to be. I'm going to try to run a 5-day free group on Facebook around some of these items, and I picked 4. So mine are going to focus around physical, so that includes your fitness and nutrition, the social, and for me, that I'm going to try to address relationships. So how do you detox from energy vampires, or protect yourself from people who are sucking you dry, and have more positive influences around you. Environmental, and we're going to focus on actually decluttering our own personal space. So
Sure.
office or home or
That
car.
That could be a huge one.
Huge stressor for people. It creates a lot of stress, even if you don't know it.
We had a woman on here that they downsized their house for basically one of those reasons was, it was like, part of it was to make the family a little bit closer, but, it's like you have more rooms, you're going to fill it with more stuff, and then you start to, I have a family member who's moving and talking to him, and he's like, I was getting rid of stuff, and it's like, I want to keep going. It's like, this feels good. It's like, when was the last time I wore this? Or when was the last time I used that thing? And then you get rid of it and you never miss it.
Right. And I think, I do think a lot of people, and especially in this country, look to things to fill them up, to fill up their soul. And filling your soul is different. It doesn't necessarily require money or tangible things or material things. Sometimes it might. There's nothing wrong with that. But it just gets to the point where we accumulate so many things, and what value are they bringing to your life? How much stress are they bringing to your life? How are they getting in the way of you living your best, most happy life, I suppose. So
one of the things my dad told me a very long time ago, being an early driver, driving a 1989 Toyota Corolla, with
That
rusted
was me.
outsides and things like that, and I just remember being bummed as a 16-year-old driving a nerdy car, and and he kind of looks at me. He's like, you don't get this right now. He's like, one day you're gonna understand that a car is just a car, and a nice car is a car with a big payment, And it's one of those things that like, you finally start to realize that like, it's just getting you from point A to point B. Yes, it's nice to have, but it ends up being a headache.
Right.
The huge homes and things like that. It takes longer to clean. You got more junk. You got more space, and you hang out in your kitchen, your living room, your bedroom. Those are the 3 places.
Yeah.
So why have everything else?
exactly. And I think it comes down to everybody defining for themselves. We talked about happiness and success, and what are your priorities? And I think this is always an interesting activity to do with people when they say, well, these are my priorities. And I'm like, are they really? So let's take a look at your bank account. Let's take a look at where you spend your time.
Put
Make
your money
a
where your
list.
mouth is, right?
Well, because I didn't come up with that. That was an activity that I got from some coach somewhere. And it was enlightening for me. If I were to look at, literally, it's a really good exercise. If you take a look at your bank account, that doesn't lie. It's going to show you exactly where you put your money over the past week or the past month. And then if you look at, okay, where did I spend my time? A lot of it's going to be at work, but then what else did you spend your time doing? And how does that align with what you say your priorities are or what your goals are? A lot of times it's not going to.
Right.
And so you have to really get honest.
If you're saying, I want to travel and save money, and you're spending, that's not necessarily showing that.
Right.
Yeah.
There's not congruency there. So
if it's okay, I'm going to steal that for our challenge probably in the following week.
feel free.
Yeah,
Feel
I like
free.
that.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier. It's just that awareness. It's like so many people like say one thing, but they're their own worst enemy, in so many regards. It's like,
And it's usually not intentional. I don't even think they're aware.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, I know I've done it, so.
So when, I guess we kind of jumped all over the place.
We did.
So you met Mark, you said, on an internship.
Mhm.
Okay, and that was at the space in Montgomery, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. What did you think of Mark first time? No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that.
It's a beast.
But so at that point, are you personally training?
Yes.
Okay.
I was personally training and finishing up grad school.
Okay. And then that turned into, is that when it turned into more of the wellness direction, or is?
It did. So I I've done so many things. I worked in public health, and that was my first job that I had right out of grad school because that was what was open.
Okay.
But then I did transition into a corporate wellness position, and I loved it. I was an on-site wellness coordinator, so I managed their fitness center, put together fitness programs. I did health coaching. I did all of the health risk assessments, strategic planning. It was really fun, and I'm still very passionate about that route and helping people to be healthy in the workplace and helping leaders in the workplace to understand the value of that. But then
I think that's way more prevalent now.
It is.
I think it's you've seen a really big uptick in that because people are realizing that from the bottom line standpoint, your health insurance premiums as a company are directly related to everything that you were doing.
They definitely are.
Yeah.
And everybody, is responsible from the employee all the way up to the CEO for how that's going to work. There needs to be buy-in from the top down and support, and then the people, we as individuals are responsible for participating and engaging in the things that are provided to us. Health insurance, it's changing all the time, and everybody's aggravated because of the healthcare system, but essentially I always look and think about, well, what can I control? And I can't control what the governor does or the president does or Congress or the insurance companies. I can't control any of those things, but what I can control are the actions that I take every day to keep myself healthy and balanced from a mental, physical, emotional, spiritual standpoint, self-care standpoint. And it costs a lot less money in the long run to take care of myself in those ways.
Yep.
So you can control that stuff?
I can. Sometimes,
Right, like,
sometimes,
Yeah.
It depends. It depends.
But I
If you
think
put a
so
brownie
many-
in front of me, I
right.
have to exercise some self-control.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes back to like what you were talking about with the cookie and stuff like that. Like we are, so many people aren't in control of their lives.
Right.
And like you said, they don't even know that they're doing it. And then you're 100%, again, I've said this actually before. It's just like wherever you're at, you've made the decisions to get there. Like whether they're for you or against you or whatever it is, once you internalize that and accept that as a life, like, hey, where I'm at right now, us sitting here right now, was a conscious decision that we made to get here. And yeah, some people get lucky breaks, some people get unlucky,
Absolutely.
so on and so forth. But like, harping on that or staying in that negativity, toxic kind of mindset doesn't get you anywhere.
Well, and when you talk to the people who are very humble and they say, well, how'd you do it? Well, I got very lucky. That's them being humble. But for 9.99 times out of 10, you look at their track record and it's a lot of hard work and a lot of persistence and even more consistency.
Absolutely, consistency. Yeah.
And I think in our industry, that's ultimately what breaks people through. Whenever you see those before and after photos or whatever it may be, and you're like,
wow, what'd you do?
Yeah,
went to the gym and ate right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But it's the stick-to-itiveness, and it's not a microwave program, and it's unfortunately, there's some factors involved sometimes like genetics, and some people might not be able to look certain ways, whatever. But if you do come in and you have that stick-to-itiveness and you understand, like, I am 100% in control of this, and there's some circumstances that come up with kids or family or work, but if you really follow the breadcrumbs to like where your priorities lie, is it in the gym or is it in wherever your goal does it align with your goal, basically. So
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that sense of overwhelm that people have or feeling like their lives are not in control. It's really easy. We've all probably been there where you just feel stuck and you don't know what to do. And I think it's hard for people sometimes to feel like they can invest in themselves, especially if it's hiring a coach or a trainer to help them get out of that spot.
Yeah.
And if you look at any successful person in the world, business, entertainment, whatever, they have all invested and paid other people, mentors, to help them get to the next level, to help them get unstuck. And that is a part of self-care. So I'm not saying you have to break the bank or whatever, and you may have to make some sacrifices for that to fit in your budget.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's really worth it to just say, you know what, I got to focus on myself and get this together here. So
You just look at
whatever
it
it
as
is.
anything you normally do. I mean, I don't pay for haircuts, but I know Mark pays for haircuts.
Yeah.
You know, like if Mark just completely let it all go, let the beard grow out, and never got his haircut again, like he's going to be looked at in a different light. And you know, it's like we wash our clothes, and like, so exactly what you were saying. Why would you not want to invest in mental care? You know, and driving yourself again to that whatever next level may be for you, whether it's just getting your daily habits under control or maybe a professional leap, because we focus so much on the outward appearance type stuff that other stuff slips by the wayside, it seems like.
Right.
You
And
know?
we need to be really, really clear, and it takes time and a lot of redos
It takes time to change things.
to change things
Yeah.
and to get clear on what it is that you want, not what society thinks you should have, not what mom and dad think is good for you. It's not that you can't take those opinions and filter through them and whatever, but at the end of the day, we have to decide what path we want to be on and figure out what to do.
Do any examples come to your mind with working with clients when someone's actually got it? And is there like a formula there that maybe people listening could maybe draw from? Because I know that's one of the things I personally struggle with sometimes with is you know, forming these goals and making sure I'm on this path towards a brighter future or what have you, or more fitness or whatever it is. You know, is there anything that comes to mind?
I'm sure there's probably not a formula.
Yeah,
but
like, well, I mean, formula in the sense of like steps, you know, is it like, first thing you need to do is put down your phone, you know, like, because it's engaging, or stop comparing, you know, because that's basically social media, what it is, right? It's a constant comparison, like,
Right.
look at what Jared's doing, like, oh man, I wish I could do that, or so on and so forth. And then it's almost like brainwashes you to the point where they're like, I really want to go skydiving. And then all of a sudden you get up in the plane and you're like, what am I doing? You know, this isn't what I wanted to do at all.
Yeah.
So obviously that's an extreme example, but you know, when we look at the fitness realm and people are, you know, formulating, you know, their true self and how to pursue that, I think there does need to be some type of a process to that, because it just, you know, wishing that it's gonna like, oh, it'll come to me. No, it's not. You need to like proactively seek help out, like you said.
Absolutely. So I think people need some type of mentor, whether it's somebody who can help them just as a friend, or if you're paying for it, because that person can be a sounding board and help keep you focused and directed and help you to identify negative thought patterns, limiting beliefs, what distractions are getting in the way. There needs to be a strategic approach. So if this is your goal, do you know why that's your goal? Why is this important to you? How do you want to make this happen? Let's break it down into some steps that are a little bit more manageable in the short term.
Sure.
And when these things come up, because there's never a perfect time to start, and there will never be perfect circumstances in which, like, oh my God, I'm going to have 8 perfect weeks where I'll be able to do this with no distractions. That never happens.
Yeah, right.
So I think
eight perfect minutes.
yeah, right. 8 perfect seconds even. So it's not about having the perfect time or the perfect situation. It's about learning how to execute what you want in the most imperfect circumstances even. So that's why I try to help people with fitting things into the life that they have. They can make changes in their lives, but there are things that they can't change. I mean, they can't change, well, they could, but they may not be able to change their job or the hours they work and the responsibilities that they have with their kids. I work with a lot of moms, and they're frazzled and running around. My mother did the same thing. So there are some things that are going to be responsibilities, but then there are things there where we can take a step back. And one thing you asked me, I had a conversation with a woman. It was a consultation, and she came to me she really wanted to lose weight, and she had tried and failed so many times. And in my conversation, I just listened and asked questions, and at the end I said, you know, the 2 biggest things that people tell me for why they can't do this are time and money. money is not an object for you. You've already established you've got the funds, you've budgeted for this. You legitimately don't have time right now. And I'm not taking you on as a client until you figure out how you're going to make time, because you will fail. I said, you are trying to put something on an overflowing plate. And she looked at me like, oh my God, are you seriously not going to take me on?
Right.
And I went on to say, I want you to hear what I heard you say. I heard you say that you've got all these activities, you're on all these committees, you've got your work, you've got your kids. Have you had a conversation with your spouse on how he could support with some of those things? Well, no. Okay, well then you can't really be mad at him.
Right.
Have you? So there was, had not asked for support. Was in the mindset of, I have to do everything. If I don't do it, who's going to do it? And I said, well, what happens if you decide you're not going to be on that committee anymore? What's going to happen? She said, I guess they'll find somebody else. I said, of course they'll find someone else. The world is not going to implode because you didn't serve on the committee, but they're going to keep asking if you keep saying yes.
Yeah.
So I think people have to set boundaries. And that's what she did. She called back within a week and had made arrangements with her children, with her husband, with other obligations to make time for it. And we trained together for 6 months. She got her health in order, her numbers, as far as cholesterol and things, improved, lost weight, everything that she wanted to accomplish, and she felt better mentally and physically.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's great.
That's pretty
And
amazing
what
stuff.
what I heard there is you uncovered the real issue.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't just take it for face value, because I think that's what makes an awesome coach. In general, is like you see through the BS. The front, because people want to put on a front because we don't want to feel judged.
Right.
Like if you understand my real problems, like you're gonna see I'm not perfect, but everyone's not perfect.
Yeah.
Oh
No
my
one's
gosh.
perfect.
We all have them, even
Yeah.
us. I mean, the professionals have them too. So, and I try to be as transparent as I can and still remain professional with my clients.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it brings you down to a level of where they can relate.
right.
Because that's a huge problem when you're unrelatable and everyone thinks you're a superhero. They're like, well, my problems are so stupid. Like, I'm not going to tell you that. You know?
Right.
It's kind of like the first time you meet like a famous person or something like that. I mean, I meet famous people all the time.
Of course.
All the time.
But I mean, even maybe not like super famous, but just anyone that you've met where you're like, wow, he's just a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, yeah, and that's 100%. And guess what? That normal famous person that might have it all figured out on the surface has their own issues. So I think, if people are listening, they're like, man, I really need to find a mentor or something like that. It's like you can find one probably already in your life.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to get that direction and
Even just taking the
opening
time
up.
to talk to somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was a story I just listened to the other day about, they just did it was actually a survey in Cincinnati of just loneliness, and it was like 3 out of 5 people experience intense loneliness on a regular basis. And it's like, you can just reach out, because everyone does that thing where, call me anytime if you need anything, and no one ever actually does that. If people really mean what they say and you actually reached out to a friend, like, most people want to help, or they at least want to lend an ear,
Right.
because they're probably going through some of the same stuff.
Absolutely.
One of the challenges we have people try and do is get out and go have lunch with somebody. Just sit down and talk to somebody for an hour. You can be amazed the stuff you find out, and that's what is amazing about this little podcast that we have. Is it's as much as for anyone else listening as it is for Mark and I.
Yeah. Well, and I think kind of piggybacking off of that, so we all are responsible for treating others with kindness, reaching out, trying to have random acts of kindness and that type of thing. But at the same time, it's also my responsibility to seek out opportunities to be involved and in part of a community, whatever that looks like. If it's church, if it's a gym, if it's just a group of friends, anything that gets you to feel some sense of community and connectedness. And fitness is a really strong way to do that, because it's more, I know what you guys do here, it's more than just about the workout. And that's where the stories come out and the struggles come out and the personal stories, what's going on at home or relationships. And you really do have somebody that you can talk to about it and have a healthy outlet. So
Yeah.
that's the thing that I've always seen with fitness, as far as it being an anchor in my life. It's always going to be there for me
Yeah.
as an outlet for stress relief, to keep myself healthy, and to connect with others. And it's not just about my workout or my nutrition.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's one of the telling signs of good members is whenever they're hanging out after class and
Yes.
really intentionally going up to new people and trying to make them feel welcome. And anytime we see someone just come in and as soon as the workout's over, they run out to their car. It's one thing in the morning if you got to get to work kind of thing, but if it's every day and you're just like, as soon as the workout's done, like running out, it's like that's probably a person that's probably not going to stick around.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there's maybe nothing you can really do until they can understand, like, hey, look,
Yeah.
you're welcome here, and
Right.
you can engage in this community. And guess what? If you don't engage in this community, it's gonna be really hard to kind of do it on your own. You
Yeah.
know?
It really is.
Yeah, there's we can't brag enough about the community of the members here, because they'll make it awkward to try and drag you into being a part of it. Like the people go up and talk to you, and and then at least it's on you if you don't want to talk to somebody else. It's not like everyone's just sitting off in the corner doing their own thing. So
Yeah.
we kind of call it embracing the suck together.
Embracing the suck.
Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
some stuff that, yesterday's workout, for example, was very tough, but you see people that are on completely different levels in their personal life and professional life, and then they come together and they're just slapping high fives and breathing hard on the floor next to each other, because but everyone becomes on an equal playing field.
Exactly.
That's what fitness does.
Exactly. And it can be really intimidating to start something new, anything new. But I find that for people who are starting new on their health and fitness journey, to go in, even to just one-on-one talk with a trainer or a coach, and then much less go
Sometimes
into
that's an easier way for people to break into it.
Yeah.
Because it's not, like you said, it's not as intimidating. You can really break down some of those barriers right away, and then ease them in.
And everybody has a different style. It's like finding a hairstylist or a therapist or a dentist. There's probably a million good ones around, but which one's going to be the right fit for you? And that's really important too, for the sake of consistency with people, getting with the right mentor, getting with the right community, being a part of the right gym or wherever you're going. And if you need to be one-on-one, I train people right in their living rooms or in my living room.
Yeah.
And
Because if that's comfortable for them, and that,
Yeah.
is that something you maybe work towards with them? Like, all right, we're going to go out and maybe adventure out just a little bit. Is that something you push them towards, or you try and meet them where they're at?
I start with meeting them where they're at, and then I think that's part of growing in your skills as a coach, and understanding people and every individual client, knowing when to push and when to pull back. Now, not pushing too much, because then they will get frustrated, but you have to push them outside their comfort zone, like a little bird. It's time to fly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Fly, little birdie.
fly. You don't need the nest.
Yeah. So where are you at kind of right now? Is it mostly individual wellness and training?
Yeah, so I've kind of had some transitions, as I said. I had a studio at one point, and I stepped away from that. It was not really the direction that I personally wanted to be in at that time, and it was a lot of overhead and responsibility. I think that's the thing, when people think this is my passion. Well, it can look a lot of different ways. And what I learned at that time anyway, that running and owning and operating a studio with a lot of overhead was not my passion.
Oh, it's not the same as helping people.
No, it's not. And it became very stressful, and then I couldn't show up as my best self for me or for my clients. And so I stepped away, took a break, and I went into the corporate world. And I was working from home for the last 2 years, working with Medicare members on their health over the phone. Learned a lot. Like you said, most of them, the things that, if they have any regrets, it's the things that they didn't do. It's not taking care of their health when they were younger, because they don't have the quality of life maybe that they would like to have now, those types of things. And then now transitioning out of that into my own personal training and coaching. And so a lot of it right now is one-on-one. I do some small groups, but it's very intimate, and I'm sort of starting at the bottom, I guess, but not really, if that makes sense.
Well, you're starting. You might think that way because it's still new, but you have a lot of experience backing yourself that will definitely put you on a accelerated path probably than people just starting out in their early 20s.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I learned about what I want to do and how I want to show up. And I was talking to Mark about this earlier. The online space is huge. And so I do want to be able to work remotely with people. And I do that now. I mean, I've trained people over FaceTime, but even, running groups on Facebook and coaching things, you could be in another state and we can still have a community, and you can form. Social media and technology is amazing.
It can be such a positive.
It really can be a positive
thing if you use it correctly.
Absolutely.
That's one thing that when we say stay away from the social, the phone. It's not. I use it all the time for good, but it can be distracting. But if you use it use the right tools, like it can be a very positive impact in your life.
It can, because it eliminates barriers and walls and geography, and you can connect with so many different people in ways that you wouldn't have been able to when I was growing up.
Right.
I didn't even have Facebook. So
life without Facebook.
I know what, and now we've got Instagram. I can't keep up. I'm telling you.
Yeah, there was actually a study recently released about emojis and their impact on couples and couples who use emojis in their text messages communicate better. It has officially been proven because you can denote what you mean by what you're saying by the emoji that you're using.
Absolutely. And I think that's interesting, but it doesn't surprise me because text message is not the most ideal form of communication for important matters.
Yeah, please call me if there's something going on.
Exactly. How about if we call one another or meet?
It's this weird thing. It's called a phone. It's on the tablet that you use, and you can.
Right. You think I'm mad right now, and I'm not mad at all,
Yeah.
and I'm confused as to why you think I'm mad, and so all of that kind of stuff. So I think humans are designed to be connected, not to be isolated, and there are so many ways to achieve that. But I do believe that fitness, health, wellness is a super great way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Where do you have kind of a long-term plan for? So you said you've kind of been a trailblazer and you kind of jumped around. Is there a long-term plan, or is it just kind of like this is where I'm at right now?
Both, I think.
Yeah.
I'm still clarifying that. Because I'm in transition, I'm sort of having to focus on where I'm at right now, but I do have an idea and a vision, and it's different than what it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So I really want to be more in wellness, not just the physical training. That'll always be important to me and a part of what I do. So I do know that. I would love to be able to find a way to make it to be successful in doing that, so that I have time, location, and financial freedom.
Awesome.
I guess, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely makes sense.
I want to be able to pick up and move.
Yeah.
And still have my clients and my community and my business intact for the most part.
Sure.
So a brick and mortar business for me does not allow me to do that.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Where can people find you? Do you have a website? Do you have Facebook?
I do have a website. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Beyond Fitness with Lisa, on both of those. And then beyondfitnesswithlisa.com is my website. It's being updated, so there's probably not a lot of content on there, but I think my contact information, email, phone number, it's all on those.
Okay, very cool, awesome. And our traditional last question, that if you've listened to any of these, it's very simple but very different per the person, and that is just, what is your definition of fitness?
Let's see, that's a hard one.
We've kind of talked about it
Yeah.
a little bit,
Yeah.
I think, well, for me, fitness is total wellness. So that's your emotional, mental, spiritual fitness. How fit are you? How healthy are you in all of those areas of your life? How balanced are you?
Yeah, that's
that's
great.
important.
And that is that's definitely the direction that hopefully in the long run that we can take with everyone here, because it's the more we do that, the more we've seen just happiness and positivity. We talked earlier this week about what is our gym to our members, and hopefully it is what we're driving towards, which is just a positive place.
Absolutely.
Too much negativity in the world. So thank you very much for being
Thanks
on
for
today,
doing it.
Lisa.
Thank you guys for
That's
having
awesome.
me on. It's nice.
And thank you all for listening to Everyday Athlete. Join us next week as we dive deep into the lives of those who make us great. Thanks again.